As Yoav mentioned, I'm co-founder of Slate. For those that don't know us, we're a content creation platform for social media. And just a really quick high-level overview, the problem that we're solving at Slate is that brands on social are often settling for off-brand and inconsistent creative, especially as platforms like Instagram stories and TikTok are taking off, and a lot of social media content creation is happening in real time. So we provide brands, sports teams, media organizations with the ability to create content in real time from anywhere with only pre-approved brand assets in the same way that they would create natively in a platform like TikTok or Stories. And that's all controlled by their brand designers through this backend system that they get to own. And then that content gets to be posted anywhere, creating brand consistency, but also content that looks and feels native, it's sponsorable, a ton of benefits to the platform. And we're really excited to announce a partnership with PhotoShelter that's really going to help our combined customers create more content in a streamlined way from capture to social media post. And the way that's going to work is within Slate, you'll be able to browse your PhotoShelter galleries and libraries in real time. So you could search your content, photos from game day or from an event are coming in real time, select the media that you want, and then now you're able to quickly brand that media right there within the Slate app and then post it directly to any social media platform. So we're really excited about this integration with the media being powered by PhotoShelter, the creation being powered by Slate, and really streamlining those workflows for our combined customers. So we're looking to release this really in the next week or two, so it should be coming really soon. So excited to get to announce that. Cool. So stop sharing my screen there, and I'm going to invite the panel on to talk about real-time social, which is exactly what kind of this integration is helping solve for our customers. So the first panelist I am going to bring onto the stage is Elise Krieger, who is Director of Social Media for the World Surf League. Elise?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Eric. I'm Elise Krieger. I'm currently based in Dana Point, California. I'm the Director of Social Media for the World Surf League. My team specializes in live coverage of our championship tour events across all major social media platforms.
Awesome. Thanks, Elise. Thanks for being there, coming in from my hometown, Dana Point. The next person I am going to invite onto the stage here is Jen Fisher, who's Senior Coordinator of Social Strategy at NASCAR.
Perfect. Hello. Thank you for inviting me on and appreciate the introduction. Like Eric said, I'm Jen Fisher, currently Senior Coordinator Social Media Strategist at NASCAR, previously with the Green Bay Packers and with the University of Iowa Athletics Department, working with live content creation on the ground, behind the scenes work for a few years now, working with Slate for the last 3 years, and just really developing live content to create the behind the scenes exclusive moments that you can increase the engagement with fans and increase those personalities from the athletes from the ground.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. Excited to have you here. And the last but definitely not least guest that I'm going to bring on to the stage is Brianne Wigley, who's Senior Manager of Integrated Content at LPGA.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm Brianne Wigley, Senior Manager of Integrated Content for the LPGA. In the middle of my 5th season working at the LPGA Tour, previously worked at University of Florida, based in Gainesville, Florida now still, so go Gators if you're listening. And yeah, we've been working with Slate for a few months now. I'm really stoked about the partnership with Slate and PhotoShelter. We've been working with PhotoShelter for several years, so excited to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, just to kind of recap for the audience and for everyone, the topic here is how to create compelling social content in real time. Obviously, we have 3 experts in social media who are creating a ton of content around events, tournaments, competitions in real time, some lasting multiple days. There's an increasing pressure to create more content more quickly, especially on the ground, with more and more platforms to have to post for. So really want to dive in and learn from the 3 of you as to how you all handle this, how how you prepare to then be reactive on the fly and create such compelling content in real time. So I'm going to start with you, Elise. With the World Surf League, can you tell us a little bit about how your team is structured, specifically at an event, a tournament on the beach? How many folks do you have running social, and how do you kind of split their duties to make sure everything is going out efficiently and you're creating a ton of great content?
Yeah, sure. So believe it or not, from looking at all of our social channels and the amount of work that we put out, we have a very small social team. So depending on the event, so for example, our last event, that one of the larger ones that we held was our Rip Curl WSL final. So that was the cap to our championship tour season. We had all hands on deck for that event. So a lot of the times it's everyone on the ground, and there's a lot of delegation that takes place. Really having individuals own certain tasks and then just kind of handing off that baton to be able to get the full job done. So definitely to your point, we're going to have someone on the stand, we're going to have someone on their computer, kind of like owning those individual tasks to be able to cross all those boxes, because there's a lot of passing for sure.
Yeah. And do you have somebody specific to a channel, like you own Twitter today and do your thing and no one's going to approve it? Or is everything getting funneled to one person who's then kind of programming multiple channels?
Yeah, it's more so everything getting funneled to one person programming onto multiple channels. It's more so one person owning, like, you're going to shoot the chair up for this moment. You're going to capture this behind the scenes moment. And some channels do require additional attention, which I think we're going to get into today as well. For example, TikTok, platforms like that, we may have more specific people leading that channel itself.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Jen, curious what it's like at a race for you. Who's doing what? Is it similar to Elise where it's all getting funneled to one person and they are kind of air traffic control, or do you delegate channels by individual?
Absolutely. So we do delegate. We have a team of 6, and everyone is rotating each race. So, for instance, this upcoming race, I'll be on Facebook and Instagram, funneling from grabbing our broadcast clips, posting it out through Instagram. It still goes through our channel of approval, and some things I'll take natively, but others, just making sure everything looks great. But we'll have one person on Twitter, and then this weekend, for example, we'll have 2 people on the ground in Talladega, just either capturing behind the scenes content and posting directly live, or sending it back to us. We'll then take their content and feed it in into the different platforms.
Got it. Got it. So you rotate who's doing what, but have kind of that structure. Do you have a favorite when you're assigned Instagram? Or are you like, yes, I don't want to do Twitter today? Or is it all equal to you?
It's all equal. I am very new to the sport, and so I'm slowly getting into the Twitter world. But Instagram, Facebook have been a great platform. And then this past weekend I was on the ground, so actually capturing the content and then posting natively as well. So it's all fun.
Sense. And then Brianne, I know you've been at LPGA potentially longer than Elise and Jen have been at their leagues. How have you seen kind of that evolve from, when you started, I'm sure there's less people, also less platforms. How does that change, and how has that evolved to kind of be whatever structure you have now?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started at the LPGA, I wasn't actually in a content role. So I've kind of transitioned as we've had a growing need, I think, to your point, Eric. So our team has grown. However, it's still very small. We always say we have a small but mighty team at the LPGA. I'm sure these girls can relate to that. So I think for us, it really varies on a tournament by tournament basis as to how we have this set up. We like to remain very flexible, nimble with, whether that's at a big event, we would like to divvy up platforms and have someone really own a channel and a voice and curate that content for that channel. However, on a week-to-week basis, it kind of depends. So I think more typical tournament for us is 2 people on site and 1 person kind of back home with remote coverage. So helping if we have a bigger editing lift that week or something that, helping with player content is something we do a lot of, just providing backup while someone's out on the course. As you know, with golf, we're very spread out. So if you have to go capture something on a specific hole, that's not exactly like it takes 5 minutes to get there and then back to your computer.
Right.
So yeah, for the most part, we have one person kind of based out of the media center, and they're doing those in broadcast clips and curating a lot of that content that we push out across our channels. And we like to have one person kind of roaming around, getting some of that behind the scenes content and things like that to be funneled across to our global audience.
Yeah. Yeah, three very different sports in terms of layout on an event day, as I'm realizing. So, Brianne, we'll keep it with you. What content for you seems to perform the best during a tournament? Maybe that is something that seems more obvious, like a great highlight, which is totally fine. But also, is there anything that surprises you that either overperforms or underperforms or has recently?
Yeah, I think for us, behind the scenes content always performs really well. So anything that can give our fans an inside look at, the day-to-day lives of some of our athletes and golfers, or, something that they're not seeing from the TV broadcast. LPGA is such a global sport that our fans really are all over the world. So they're not really on site with us on a week-to-week basis. So I think that behind the scenes content does well. I think something this year, we have a new partnership with KPMG to kind of provide us enhanced statistics, if I can say that. So I think our fans, that's been really cool to see the reaction to some of those kind of stats that we can now produce that we haven't in the past. I think for us, everyone knows that they're the best female golfers in the world, but we haven't really had the stats to actually back up those claims up until just a few months ago. So we've started to roll out some of that, in the forms of highlights and graphics and things like that, that have performed really well for us. But, I think one of our top posts of the year was, a video that I grabbed with Nelly Korda right after she won the gold medal in Tokyo. And it was a little TikTok video of her kind of holding up her gold medal. So super behind the scenes, super, organic, raw. So yeah, I think that's probably what I would say performs really well for us right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to make sure that your camera roll isn't full when you hand the phone.
Yeah.
Get that like one shot, and then it's like it doesn't save it because your camera roll is full from everything else you've been capturing. Jen, is that the
Yeah.
same? Is it the behind the scenes stuff still is kind of the best performing across any platform, really?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have really discovered as Brian had mentioned, just what fans can't necessarily see on broadcast, and even the phone videos of it just feels more authentic of, this is your friend sending you a video clip of behind the scenes, and this is it may not be the highest quality, but something that goes out immediately behind the scenes. If something is educational, if it's inspiring, if it's something where you can personally relate to, a lot of our fans really gravitate towards the family side of NASCAR. And whether it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his daughter, one of those pictures did phenomenal on all of our accounts because you can really see these driver personalities, and just that behind the scenes that you don't necessarily get from broadcast does great. And bringing those to TikTok, I mean, there was a video where the Dillon family, his son Ace was in the car and he had dropped a binky and immediately took that to TikTok. That got over 6 million views right away. So just that personable feeling that you can connect with these athletes that normally you can't experience through any other platform. So whether it's storytelling on Instagram stories or quick tweets, just creating those experiences, and we're able to provide it on the ground very, very quickly in a great way. So
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the rise of kind of that sort of content really happened with, I guess, Snapchat first, and then when stories came onto Instagram, all of a sudden, more of that behind the scenes real time content versus such like a polished, produced feed. And now TikTok seems to be the next step, the evolution of that, where it's still a feed. It's maybe not as real time. The content could live a little longer, but it still is that like authentic, behind the scenes, like raw sort of content, like that one you mentioned, that did really well for you, Jen. So Elise, I'm curious to kind of talk to you about how you're approaching TikTok. I think the WSL has been on TikTok for quite a while. I was pretty early on that platform and doing pretty well on it. How has that changed kind of your approach to social media, and how do you look at that platform and what it could do for you, in the near future and beyond?
Yeah, so much room for us to still grow on TikTok every single day, but it's been such a great experience in that we're learning that we have a whole different audience there.
Yeah.
Our audience on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, they're core, they know surf, they know we're athletes, but our audience on TikTok is totally different. It's really exciting to be able to get to know them and kind of deliver content that they're interested in, like teach them about why we love surfing and introduce like all of those things to them. So that's been really fun and kind of just, being able to take a step and really think about our content buckets per platform and realizing that TikTok is so different. So if that takes, a different person to lead that effort and things like that, that's kind of what we're working towards. And then, like I said, there's a lot of room for growth. I don't think we're doing everything perfect right now by any means, but it's been really fun just to kind of really use it as a listening tool to understand who's out there and what the potential is for sharing our sport through that platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does it change kind of your event coverage? Are you trying to get content out on TikTok in real time, or is it more like the algorithm's gonna, surface content whenever it surfaces it, so it's less about getting that moment up there as soon as it happens?
Yeah, so we do share in real time kind of the best we can, but one thing that we have been experimenting with is we're streaming our contest live there. So we're able to hold live streams on that platform. So that's been a really great experience for us to kind of experiment with for different events. What does well. One thing that's tricky about surfing is we have our events in a 10-day window, and we run those like when the waves are good, and it's all depending on Mother Nature. So there are like a lot of elements that make things tricky, but yeah, we do post in real time, and it is really great whenever we are able to stream our events there and kind of like align those postings to drive viewership too.
Awesome. So Brianne, obviously we work with you, and one of the big things that kind of we help support on is branding and brand consistency and kind of pre-planning that branding to then execute in real time. Curious how much kind of pre-planning goes into what you can do at a real-time event, and how much does making sure everything meets some sort of brand consistency is important to you and your organization?
Yeah, I mean, brand consistency is huge, and I think Slate has been really helpful. I'm sure these girls would agree. Keeping that brand consistency when you're covering an event in real-time basis. I think Instagram stories was really where we saw, the need to kind of hone in or crack down maybe on our brand consistency when you're covering something in real time. So that's where Slate has been super helpful for us. I think it's obviously super important to have a voice on every channel, and have that be consistent across the board, because it might not be the same person posting, on any given day. So for us, we really want our fans to have a seamless experience regardless of where they're, tuning in or following us. We want them to know that it's the LPGA. So I think that's things like Instagram Reels and TikTok have been kind of, an evolution of our brand. So it's still, under our brand umbrella and consistent with our standards, but it allows us to be a little bit more creative, I think, across the board. And, it's all still matches our brand, but, it can be a little bit different as well.
Yeah, and that was going to be kind of my next question is, with kind of the rise of the new formats like TikTok and Reels, how it seems like whenever there's a new platform, it's kind of about being native and authentic first as much as possible to kind of look like everyone else and fit in. And then it starts to become, how do we incorporate our brand and even sponsors at some point? I guess, Jen, for you, how are you approaching that, with such a strong brand identity across all your other platforms, not wanting to jump into a platform like TikTok and just have everything be overly branded, but still needing to be authentic and true to your brand? How do you kind of balance those two on a new platform? Or is it, let's be native and authentic first, and then we'll start to, bring in our own branding and try to maintain some consistency or some level of authenticity to our brand versus just authenticity to the platform?
Absolutely. It's definitely a balance between it all. I think with Instagram stories has been our heaviest lift when it comes to creating that consistent brand, because with the stories itself, we treat it like a beginning, middle, and end of these storytelling moments. And so having that consistency with utilizing Slate for the font that we use and the colors and the frames that fans can recognize. We currently have a few frames that say like green flag or race winner, and being able to tell that story and making it from beginning to end, that has been the most significant part of utilizing our brand and what fans can recognize with Instagram stories itself. Now with the Green Bay Packers, we also utilized it with sponsorships or utilizing Slate features with filters in the actual feed. Or if we had certain video graphics like 24 hours until game day, how do we utilize the same filter over again and when you see it in the feed? But that consistency throughout each of those platforms definitely varies. And I think utilizing Instagram stories as that main form of consistent brand, our feed, we definitely keep up to what's natural and most organic in the moment. And then if there's that opportunity to put our brand onto it, fans recognize it, but definitely varies between the platforms.
Got it. And how about TikTok for you? Are you approaching that more of like, let's do a lot of different things and start to see what's working before we have such specific guidelines as to how we approach it?
Yep, absolutely. So we, right now with TikTok, everything is native, and kind of approaching the brand as just one of everyone else. There was the recent trend with Emily on TikTok who changed all the logos and the brands. And so we actually changed our TikTok brand logo as the one that she created. And so fitting in with those different trends and keeping up with that without making it too much of this is NASCAR's brand. It's everyone's brand currently on that platform.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's definitely a fine balance, especially with a platform that's so new, to try to bring in something that is so defined as your brand versus what you say, kind of fitting in and trying to be with the trends. And I think we saw the same thing on stories too, really, like when stories first came out to Instagram and definitely on Snapchat, it was about being as native as possible. And then it kind of starts to get in between. And I guess that leads to kind of the next piece of sponsorship and how that kind of comes into real-time social. I think we only have a few minutes, so we may not have time for everyone to answer this. But Brianne, I'll go to you on this one. Like how much does sponsorship play into your real-time content, and how do you kind of balance the need to service those sponsors but also create compelling content, or sometimes the two may not line up?
Yes, I think it's a constant balance, and we're always working to, have a better balance, and, doing things that only add value to our fans, I think is our highest priority. We really try to, keep a nice balance between pre-tournament content and then what's actually, in our tournament days. We wanted to add value to a sponsor, but also not lose sight of, our fans and what we would be doing, if it wasn't a sponsored piece. But I think, to be honest, sponsored content is probably where I spend most of my time these days. I think it's increasingly becoming more and more important, for us in terms of social media. And Slate's really helpful, from that perspective in terms of opening up opportunities for sponsored Instagram stories and having that match, not only our branding, but our sponsor's brand as well. But yeah, I think it's always I think we're trying to keep a balance every single day, but keeping our fans and our core, mission as the top priority for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're at the half hour. We'll do one last rapid fire question. So it'll be a one answer question. We'll start with you, Elise. What is your most important social media platform? Do you consider one to be the most important right now?
Right now, I'd say Instagram. That's where there are largest audiences. And yeah, definitely Instagram right now.
Okay, I'm going to ask a follow-up. Do you think in the next 3 years that answer will be different?
In the next 3
In the next years, that
years?
answer,
Absolutely, yeah.
what do you think it's going to be?
I
TikTok?
don't know.
You don't
I don't
know.
know.
I
Yeah.
think Brianne, what about you? Is it the same?
Yeah, Instagram's our highest engagement numbers, consistently highest following. I think YouTube is, something for us to really keep an eye on and something we're, pouring a lot of our efforts into building, but definitely Instagram right now.
And then, okay, in 1 year from today, do you think that will still be the case?
Yes.
Got it. Jen?
I think Instagram and TikTok, I think those are where our newest fans are becoming. I think NASCAR, especially with like Formula One and Drive to Survive and fans more being recognized with NASCAR, I think those are where we are gaining our most newest followers.
Got it. Cool.